This took place when I was 11 years old. It was a Friday night, so I was allowed to stay up late. I was watching movies in the basement alone while the rest of my family was asleep. Our dogs, a German Shepherd and a Golden Retriever, were laying on the floor next to my couch, fast asleep. All of a sudden, I got an eerie feeling. I tried to shake it off, but it wouldn't go away. I felt so uneasy. A few minutes later, the dogs woke up and began watching something in the corner of the basement. There was nothing there. Then, their eyes and heads moved to the side simultaneously, as if they were watching something walk across the basement. Then they froze, as if whatever it was stopped walking. The dogs began to growl and show their teeth, never taking their eyes off the spot. I couldn't move. I was so terrified. The dogs were snarling and growling, teeth bared, ears back, hair standing up, just staring at that spot. I had never seen them act that way before. I ran out of there as fast as I could. About an hour later, I went back downstairs to check on the dogs, and they were just fine. It was as if nothing ever happened. It's been 12 years since that happened to me, and I still don't know what happened that night, but I'm convinced the dog saw something in that basement that I couldn't see. I still get chills when I think about that night to this day. After we got married, my wife and I bought our first house. It was brand new. We were the first owners. It was in a new neighborhood as well. There were rumors that it was built over an old burial ground, though I never found any proof of that and always thought it was BS. My wife never thought there was anything odd about the place, but I did. Nothing scary, it just had a weird vibe, if that makes any sense. I wasn't the only one who thought this. In the first year, we took 2 trips away from home, and each time had a different friend house sit for us. Both of them said after we got back that there was something weird about the place that they couldn't quite put their finger on, and neither ever agreed to house sit there again. Anyway, around year 3, I was asleep in the middle of the night and woke up to a weird noise. You know, the soft swish-swish sound it makes when someone is trying to walk quietly on a carpet while wearing socks. It sounded like someone was walking around our bedroom. Thing was, I wasn't the only one who heard this. While my wife was still fast asleep, our 2 cats, both of which slept on the bed with me, also heard this. They woke up and both of them were tracking their heads in the direction of the sound as it moved. After about 20 seconds of this, one of the cats meowed at the sound. Not angry or scared, kind of a hello sort of meow. The sound stopped. The cats both sat there staring at the last spot it was in for another 20 seconds or so, but the sound didn't return, so they both put their heads down and went back to sleep. I, on the other hand, stayed awake for a very long time. I talked my wife into moving, and around 3 months later we bought a new place. Never experienced anything like that before or since. About 2 years ago, I was sitting in my living room playing Xbox with my dog lying in front of me. He was sleeping with his head facing the TV. I'm playing Battlefield, so yeah, my attention is all on the screen. But then, out of the corner of my eye, the fridge is engulfed by some black mist or shadow. I stopped playing and turned my head to see what it was, and at that time my dog looks up and turns his head. It disappeared as soon as we looked, and my dog turned his head and looked up at me as if to say, "What the hell?" Yeah, creeped me out. My cat's name is Taz. Taz seems to be a bit sensitive to spirits and such. In addition to staring at me, I'll catch him looking at seemingly nothing. During the night, I could hear him meowing loudly outside the bedroom. One night, I went to the bathroom, and the bathroom door was open with the light on. I thought someone was in there. Taz was sitting in front of the open door, looking up and meowing. Not like his regular meow either. His regular meow is high-pitched and girly. This one was deep and sort of desperate. He seemed to be trying to get someone's attention. I thought maybe my girlfriend had gone into the bathroom before me, but I remembered leaving her in the bed, so I slowly walk over, trying to see if someone was in there, wanting to give them privacy if they were. When I peeked in, there was nobody there. I looked back at Taz, and he looked at me expectantly, like he wanted me to help whoever he saw in there. I went in and closed the door, and Taz started howling. He scratched the door and kept yelling at me. I opened the door, and Taz ran off. And I felt a little breeze blow past me from inside the bathroom out. Let me start by saying I'm not religious, nor am I a believer in the paranormal. I think the paranormal and cryptozoology are interesting, but often explainable. However, there is this one thing I witnessed that truly creeped me out. A few years ago, I lost my Uncle Ray to an unfortunate battle with cancer. Everyone on my mom's side of the family was at their house while he was on his deathbed. It was a long time coming, and we knew he could pass any second. We were all laughing and sharing stories about him in the living room. A hospice nurse, my grandma, my aunt, and my grandpa were all in the room with Ray talking to the nurse. We heard this terrible sound, and immediately all ran into the bedroom. It was his final breath. Here's where it got weird. Both of their dogs and their cat started going apeshit, barking and meowing. Then, both dogs and the cat stood up on their hind legs, swatting at the air and whining. It was as if they were trying to catch something that kept slowly going higher and higher. It was very unnerving. The religious members of my family burst into tears, saying that they were trying to catch his soul. Whatever happened, it was really weird. I'll be the first to say that all of this stuff could have taken place in my head. The mind is a freaky thing and can play some pretty trippy tricks on you. Whenever I was scared as a kid, my dad always told me that in life, you should not be scared of ghosts. Fear the living, because they can actually hurt you. In my late teenage years, I came into some money after my father committed suicide, and I received an inheritance from him. At the time of my dad's passing, he and my mom owned a cabin up in Oregon by Mount Bachelor. The cabin had been put up for sale since my mom could no longer afford the payments, and renting it out was not covering the payments either. The cabin was set to go on the market for sale in less than a month, and was in the process of finalizing all the paperwork with the realtor and lawyer. I saw this as a chance to get away for a while and clear my head in light of all the things going on. I quit work, packed up my snowboarding gear, grabbed my dog, and headed up in my dad's car to the cabin. My first 2 days at the cabin were normal, and nothing out of the unusual happened. I spent my days playing with my dog in the snow, snowboarding, and in the evenings playing PlayStation or listening to music, or drinking and smoking out in the balcony. I had already stocked up on food, cigarettes, and liquor, so I was pretty much a shut-in aside from the occasional outing to hit the slopes. With my dog as company, and the DVDs and PlayStation as entertainment, I was quite content and started to feel relaxed after all the drama that had preceded my outing. The cabin itself was 2 stories. Bottom story had the living room and side guest bedroom along with a small kitchen. Upstairs had another 2 rooms along with a walkout balcony attached to the master bedroom. Most of my time was spent either in the living room, kitchen, or master bedroom. I never ventured into the other rooms and always kept the doors leading into them shut. Anyhow, the 3rd day came around and I was going through my usual routine of playing with my dog. His name was Midnight, by the way, and he has also since passed. There was some pretty heavy snowfall that day, so I did not feel like trekking down to the hill to the main road in my car and decided to stay in. That's when things started getting a bit weird. In our area, there were only 2 other cabins adjacent to ours, maybe a block away from each other. All other cabins aside from these 2 were around a mile away from ours. Surrounding us was mostly forest and very tall pine trees. I emphasize that these trees are tall, as this will be important later on. Both of the cabins were empty, and from the past couple of days, I knew that no one was currently staying there. I gave enough background now, and I'm going to jump into the weirdness. Around midday, while outside with my dog, I noticed what looked like footprints in the snow around the area surrounding our cabin. It was still snowing, so the footprints looked semi-fresh, like someone had been there in the last 20 to 30 minutes before me. I thought maybe someone was staying in the cabin near me that I may not have noticed. Maybe they were shut-ins like me. Alright, whatever. The prints led away from my cabin and they disappeared in the snow towards the denser part of the trees. I disregarded the footprints and went back inside. Nighttime came around and I decided to head to bed. My dog Midnight was laying on the bed with me when I noticed his ears perk up to a standstill, listening position. This was followed by him quickly jumping off the bed and running downstairs to the living room. I lay in bed and stayed silent. I was kind of freaked out, and could hear him moving around downstairs, back and forth. After around 5 minutes, he ran back upstairs to me and started to do his doggy dance for the sign that he had to pee or wanted to go outside. Shit. Well, fine. I can't say no to him, so we both went downstairs to the outside driveway for him to do his thing. Only, he didn't want to pee. As soon as we were outside, he started to pull on his leash, trying to drag me to where he wanted to go. He kept looking into the dense part of the trees where the prints had been earlier. But he also kept sniffing the side of the house and looking up towards the roof. After he figured out that I was not going to go where he wanted, he sat himself down and just stared into the darkness. A bit unusual for him, but alright. Maybe there are forest animals out there that he wants to chase down. But to hell with this. Did not want to chance anything, so I pulled him back inside and we both headed back upstairs. Around half an hour later, I was lying in bed when I heard what sounded like hooves walking on my roof. It was only a series of around 6 steps, and I rationalized that it could be a pine cone falling from a tree onto the roof. or maybe a kind-hearted forest animal running around. But here's the thing, the steps seemed to be spaced apart like a man-length stride, so it was really freaking me out. Midnight also heard the noise and was quick to run to the balcony screen door, expecting for me to let him out. Alright, you know what, I'm a tough guy, and at the time considered myself to be fairly well built, strong enough to handle myself. So I grabbed my coat and shoes, along with my cigarettes and a flashlight, and went out onto the balcony. Screw it, right? As soon as I was outside, I lit up my cigarette and started canvassing the roof with my light. Nothing there, and the snow on top was undisturbed. Weird, must have all been in my head. What about Midnight hearing the noise? Maybe he was feeding off my fear or paranoia. I started to calm down and relax again. My eyes started to adjust to the darkness, and I kept smoking and just staring at the stars and the trees next to our cabin. That's when I saw it. In a tree that was a little taller than our cabin, and around 20 feet from the balcony, I saw what looked like a man crouched in a squatting position in between two branches. It was squatted on one branch, and its arms were extended above its head, holding onto the branch above it. Damn, what the hell is that? I wasn't sure if I was really seeing this thing, and stood just staring and sat there motionless. I noticed Midnight stand up and start pacing behind me and lightly barking at the same time. The thing still didn't move. I put my cigarette out and was debating on shining the light in the thing's direction, but something in my head kept screaming not to, so I walked backwards to the inside of the room and pulled Midnight with me. Once inside, I locked the door and shined the light in the thing's direction, but there was nothing there. I shut the curtains to the screen door and retreated back to bed. But later in the night, I heard light tapping at the screen door, like someone was tapping on the glass with their fingers. It was consistent and did not stop for nearly an hour. Midnight seemed to stare at the door, but he wouldn't go near it anymore. The weirdest part was, I had a feeling like someone was inviting me to open the door, but at the same time I kept hearing my dad's voice in my head telling me to stay in bed and not to do it. I listened to my dad's voice and just stayed where I was. I passed out eventually and woke up in the morning and everything was normal. The rest of the week I spent there was not eventful and nothing else out of the ordinary happened. I totally admit that it could have been all in my head. A lot of stuff was going on at the time, so I was pretty messed up from all the drama. Thus are 6 disturbing true stories of pets seeing ghosts. I am Enki. If you think well of what was spoken in this video, declare it by means of the like button. Want to discuss it further? Let's do so in the comments. If watching more videos like this is something you find agreeable, hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell to stay updated. As always, thanks for watching, and may the stars shine on your humanity.